Just as a heads up, I know that this is a political video, but I'm gonna do my absolute best to make sure that I remain unbiased in this video. I know I'm gonna be talking about Democrats and Republicans and the Reform Party, but I have opinions of my own, but you're not gonna hear them in this video. Anyways, on to the video already in progress. We all love celebrities, don't we? I know TMZ sure does, but I'm talking about the regular people, us humans out there. We got our favorite actors, writers, singers, all of that. But do any of you out there have a favorite wrestler? I don't. I mean, it's not that I don't like wrestling, I just don't follow it close enough to have a favorite. But for a lot of people, some would say Undertaker or John Cena. John Cena! Or the guy who's the subject of today's video, Jesse the Body Ventura. We all know Jesse Ventura, right? Loud, proud, and unbelievably strong. But I know him best as the one-term governor of the state of Minnesota. Yep, for those of you who don't know, Jesse actually did run for and win the governorship. Not as a Democrat, not as a Republican, but as a member of Ross Perot's Reform Party. So, let me tell you how that happened. And specifically, so that I can tie this into Media Memento's overall theme of, well, media, I'm gonna tell you how Jesse Ventura became governor of Minnesota by using media. So first off, Minnesota was entering a governor's election in 1998. This was 4 years after the historic Republican Revolution of 1994, but that didn't guarantee a Republican victory, because 2 years after that, in 1996, President Bill Clinton soundly defeated his opponents, Republican Senator from Kansas Bob Dole, and businessman Ross Perot, who ran against George Bush and Bill Clinton in 1992. This time, though, he wasn't an independent. He ran under his own political party that he called the Reform Party. Such notable members of this were Jesse Ventura and future President Donald Trump. Although he would leave shortly after joining, but that's a story for another day that I'm not going to get into here. So in this gubernatorial election, who were the candidates? Well, let's start off with the Democrats. Their nominee was Attorney General Skip Humphrey, who was the son of former Vice President and former Senator from Minnesota, Hubert Humphrey. He was also the Democratic nominee in 1968 and lost against Richard Nixon. But hey, at least he did better than George Wallace, right? Humphrey did not really excite a lot of people. He was seen as kinda old and out of touch, and more importantly, just a member of the status quo. What was the point of voting for him when you knew you were gonna get more of the same? That's a legacy name like the Bushes, the Clintons, formerly the Adamses, or by recent turn of events, the Cuomos. So you knew what you were gonna get with Humphrey, and yeah, not a lot of people were really into that, but the Republicans didn't exactly do any better. Their nominee was Mayor of St. Paul, Norm Coleman, who I've heard a lot of people describe as basically what would happen if you tried to genetically engineer a politician. I mean, just look at him and you can immediately tell what he is. I think he's a baker. And he didn't excite a lot of people because, well, he was the prototypical politician. Obviously, he wasn't gonna shake things up either. So, Minnesota had to choose between either Skip Humphrey or Norm Coleman, right? Well, no, because Ross Perot's Reform Party had a different idea. They were going to nominate their own candidate and really push to make them have a chance. And despite the fact that Ross Perot and Jesse Ventura didn't get along, Jesse Ventura got the nomination. But I must say, he didn't win just because of his star power, although that's probably like 80% of it. A lot of people don't know that Jesse Ventura was also the mayor of the town Brooklyn Park, Minnesota. He ended up running because of some conservation issues, and he ended up winning and doing a good job according to a lot of citizens. And being the mayor of a decent-sized town, he was still able to remain close to everyday people. He prided himself in being a football coach for his kids. Why am I saying all this? What does this have to do with media? Well, let me tell you. Ventura used not only his WWF knowledge and experience, but he also used the fact that he was the mayor of Brooklyn Park, as well as a school football coach, to make him seem like the perfect choice for governor. He was a person of the people, he was down to earth, but he also knew how to put on a great show. And nowhere was this more evident than in his commercial, which wasn't technically advertising him. It was advertising a Jesse Ventura action figure. But it just so happened that the action figure had all the qualities that he was gonna bring to the governor's office if elected. Let me just play the ad right now just to show you that I'm not making anything up.
New from the Reform Party. It's the new Jesse Ventura action figure. You can make Jesse battle special interest groups
I don't want your stupid money.
and party politics.
We politicians have powers the average man can't comprehend.
You can also make Jesse lower taxes, improve public education, and fight for the things Minnesotans really care about.
This bill wastes taxpayer money. Retract it.
Don't waste your vote on politics as usual. Vote Reform Party candidate Jesse Ventura for governor.
Yep, that was real. That was aired on Minnesota TV stations. And eventually, these action figures were produced, and I have one here. Check it out, still in the box. I mean, it's been opened, but it's here. On the surface, this would capture people's attention because they thought it was just some kind of funny thing. But then when they heard his platform, everyone kind of scratched their heads going, maybe he's got a point. And this wasn't just independents either. Democrats and Republicans across the board thought that Ventura had the right ideas. But the Democrats and Republicans that were sticking with Humphrey and Coleman didn't see it that way. In their minds, it was just a two-person race, with Ventura possibly being a spoiler, like what a lot of people accused Ralph Nader of being in 2000. But he kept using this flashy advertising to get people's attention, but it wasn't just that. This is where we get to the debates, which, I gotta say, this is probably the most surreal-looking debate stage I have ever seen that wasn't in Vermont. Here we got this genetically manufactured politician, this old guy that's seen a lot of stuff, and this bald muscle man that used to be on the WWF going, well, I think the deficit is a really important issue, and I think that Minnesota really should take a... It's weird. It's weird, man. And I'm sorry for the bad Jesse Ventura impression, but I'm gonna stick with it. So, yeah, Jesse Ventura used this to his advantage as well. Sometimes he would give 1 to 2 word answers in the debates, and sometimes he even straight up admitted that he didn't know the answer. But he did promise that, if elected, he would do whatever he could to familiarize himself with that, and then he would act accordingly. I know how that sounds. It sounds crazy that your politician says that they don't have all the answers. And Minnesota thought that too, but they liked it. They liked it a lot. He was both calm and mannered, just like a politician should be, but he also thought outside the box and acted very differently. Kind of like how a normal person acts. Not hurting was the fact that Humphrey and Coleman basically ignored Ventura's existence. Again, to them, it was a two-way race. Ventura barely got any acknowledgement from them at all. And so, with the debates being a success, Ventura was starting to become a household name in terms of politics. And you know what that means? More advertisements, and none of them were your typical, Norm Coleman seems like a nice guy. He seems like the person that you would want to invite over for dinner. But did you know that his favorite food is deep-fried skunk? That's a stinky choice. And that's a stinky choice for Minnesota. Or something like, we all know about Skip Humphrey. He's got some skeletons in his closet. Like, did you know that in 8th grade, he poured the milk in his bowl before pouring in the cereal? Minnesota deserves better. It's none of that, despite how many times that Coleman and Humphrey ended up making those. Ventura focused on being straight to the point, but also having some fun with it. And then, on election night, it was a very close three-way race. But all the news pundits were starting to go, what's happening? On every single one I could find, them saying that Ventura was gaining in the polls was a bit of a shock to them. They were in complete disbelief. And I don't necessarily know why. I mean, there was already an independent governor serving at that time, specifically future Senator Angus King from Maine. But I guess this was different because it was so grassroots and so unorthodox, yet also played by the books. A media and bus-based campaign that really decided to go all out. It was either go big or go home, and Jesse Ventura did not want to go home. And sure enough, he won with about 37% of the vote, mostly stemming from the Hennepin County area and some of the surrounding areas in central Minnesota. Norm Coleman would come in second, and then Humphrey came in third. Ventura's supporters were thrilled. Ventura himself, was very gracious in victory, although, of course, like typical Jesse Ventura fashion, had to turn on the pro wrestler at least one more time before becoming governor. Humphrey and Coleman were caught by surprise, but were seemingly gracious enough, at least as far as I can tell. And of course, everyone was surprised. But also, a lot of people were very, very happy. A lot of independents or people that didn't vote before were thrilled by this. There's a documentary about this election that mentions that people would come up to Ventura in the airport saying that they're not from Minnesota, but they were rooting for him that night. And you know who else was rooting for Ventura? Japan! Yeah, the Japanese were watching this election because they knew him as the big bad wrestling star. They wanted him to win because of name recognition. And what else would you expect from Jesse Ventura after being sworn in than a gigantic party with karaoke, dancing, and just a great old time? And that was the last time we really got to see fun Governor Jesse Ventura on day one. Now, I'm not going to get into any real specifics when it comes to policy or anything, but this job really depressed Governor Ventura. He wasn't the fun, lighthearted guy that made quirky commercials or interesting TV appearances anymore. He was grumpy and short-tempered. In fact, this is how he announced he wasn't going to run for re-election.
So I'm here to tell you this morning that yes, I will be seeking another term as governor of the state of Minnesota. That's all I have to say. Any questions? Wait a minute. Before, though, I get to those questions, I'd just like to maybe clarify one other thing. People have said that I've gotten too serious at this job. People have said I've lost my sense of humor. Well, I want you to know that I haven't lost it. April Fools.
Not helping was the fact that he also left the Reform Party due to some infighting and ended up joining the Independence Party of Minnesota. I'm sure that wasn't a lot of fun either. So, where is everybody today? Well, Ventura's now talking about a lot of theories he has in regards to government and politics. He was also the Green Party's 2020 presidential nominee, but only in the state of Alaska. And to this day, he continues to float around the idea of running for president, which is a little weird considering how miserable he was as governor, but hey, maybe he's changed his mind. Maybe he's grown since then. I don't know. Norm Coleman was eventually elected to the Senate for one term, defeating former Vice President Walter Mondale. He eventually lost to former SNL cast member Al Franken. Skip Humphrey hasn't really done anything since this election, but he's still related to Hubert Humphrey. That can never change. So yes, it's true. Just like Arnold Schwarzenegger and Donald Trump, Jesse Ventura was a celebrity that decided to go all out, becoming a politician, and it's very likely that more will follow in his footsteps, but either way, if you are a celebrity and you're going to be running for anything, really, best to look at how Jesse Ventura did it. Use the media, get creative, and of course, be yourself. Well, folks, thanks for watching the video. What'd you guys think? I'm really scared to ask you guys questions because I know this was like a government-related thing, even if it is a gubernatorial election. And I know that's going to cause a lot of nightmares in the comments, but still, I gotta say it. Comment below and let me know because I'm always excited to hear what you guys have to say. Real quick, I'd like to thank our Patreon executive producers, Reziel, Leaf Razor, Azarius, Tanner Kapishki, Michael Bellamy, Whoop-Doo, and MD the Dude. If you too would like your name read at the end of every Media Mementos video, then consider donating to our Patreon, which has a link in the description below. And now it's time for the comment of the day. This comment is from John Memmer. I like the concept of the Brothers Grunt. I like the grotesque art style and wanting to have some lore behind all the nonsense and randomness. Sadly, it ended up being a somewhat boring cartoon. For me, it's one of those shows where you get more enjoyment by watching a couple short clips on YouTube rather than watching an entire episode by itself. Honestly, I couldn't agree more. You put it perfectly right there. That's exactly what the Brothers Grunt is good for. And honestly, that's how I usually revisit it too. Watching a whole episode just kinda hurts. Anyways, thanks for watching everybody, and I'll see you guys next time!